Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Mighty Stream, and I am greeting you this morning. Today is April the 16th. We are at the halfway mark for the month of April. Well, I want to greet you and tell you good morning, and I hope that this weekend will be a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful weekend for you. Take it by storm. Take authority over every situation that you react to, and make sure that when you respond and react, that it's in a manner that exudes your spiritual principles that you have invested in over the time, over the years that you've been in recovery. I want to encourage you to do that. Let's take the moment of silence, and brought to you by Hope Through Navigation. And this is the Hood Recovery Services Program. Hood, the acronym HOOD, stands for Hope Offered on Demand. In time, I will have a complete year of these just for today. For every day of the year, you will be able to, at any point in time, come to the YouTube channel and pull up whatever day it is that you're seeking to have a discussion or listen to a discussion on. So let's take a moment of silence, followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. Okay, let's do that together. Moment of silence now. Thank you. Who we are not, God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Wow, just for today. Thank you. Please and thank you, right? Okay, you can reach me at Recovery of Hope 21 at gmail.com. If you like to engage me, that's how you would do it. Let's go ahead and get into the reading. I saw a peek of it, and I know that it sounds interesting. All right, April 16th, acting as if. Today we seek solutions, not problems. We try what we have learned on an experimental basis. Basic text, page 58. I like that. Today we seek solutions, not problems. We try what we have learned on an experimental basis. I like that word experiment. Let's see what it says. The first time we heard that we should act as if, many of us exclaimed, but that's not honest. I thought we were always supposed to be honest about our feelings in Narcotics Anonymous. Perhaps we can reflect on when we first came into the program. We may have believed in God, but we prayed anyway. Or maybe we weren't sure the program would work for us, but we kept coming to meetings regardless of what we thought. The same applies as we progress in recovery. We may be terrified of crowds, but if we act confidently and extend our hand, we'll not only feel better about ourselves, we'll feel that we are no longer so afraid of large gatherings. Each action we take in this vein brings us closer to becoming the people we were meant to be. Each positive change we make builds our self-esteem. Through acting differently, we will realize that we are beginning to think differently. We are living ourselves into right thinking by acting as if. Just for today, I will take the opportunity to act as if I can accept a situation I used to run from. Oh, there's so much to unpack in that reading. And it's one of those ideals or beliefs or recommendations that not everyone is going to agree with. And it admits that at the beginning. It said, we thought that we were supposed to be honest about our feelings in recovery. So why should we act as if, basically, right? Well, from the angle that practice makes perfect, that is the angle that this Just for Today is being presented. That if you believe that you cannot, you probably will not. If, however, you have some faith, or let's say for the sake of the program, Hope Through Navigation, if you have some hope that you can, you're more likely to accomplish that thing. It used an example of big crowds. A lot of people used to be terrified of big crowds, but by going to meetings and different events, we learn how to become adjusted to it. The shock and the fear lessen over time. And I do believe that is a very valuable principle. I believe that the more a person is exposed to the same thing or to something, they become more akin to it, right? It's no longer unfamiliar because you have had the opportunity to sit in that situation and feel all of what comes with it, all of the things that you think that you're not able to overcome. I think sometimes when people say they can't handle thus and so, I think what they're really saying is, I can handle it, but when I do, there's something that goes on. There's a schema. There's something that goes on within me mentally, sometimes physically, that causes such a disruption or a diseasiness, an uneasiness, right? An uneasiness that I don't like dealing with that. And so I think when people say I can't deal with something, it's more of an admittance that they become unmanageable emotionally and mentally, spiritually. There's a disruption in their spirit, and that disruption causes them to do or say or act in a way that they do not believe is okay. And so I wonder if it's more about our coping skills when we say, oh, I don't do such and such. I was having a conversation with a friend. We talk periodically, not often, but we went to school together. We went to elementary, junior high, high school, and now we find ourselves involved in recovery together. And so we were having a conversation, and she was inviting me to a particular meeting. And all I could remember, she said, "Oh, you don't make that meeting. That's probably not an option." I said, "Oh, I've been to that meeting." But that meeting has a service dog. Someone comes with a service dog, is what I remember. And what I remember is that that dog walks around sniffing people, standing with people, looking to be fed something. This dog is a disturbance because the dog is not with its owner during the meeting. And so what I remember is that I thought to myself, I didn't come here to interact with a dog. And I said, until I got a sponsee that had a service dog, I just would prefer for dogs not to even be in a building during a meeting. So I had that line of thinking until I encountered it a little bit more closely, and I saw how important having her service dog was and how it made life more doable for her. And I love dogs, love animals, but I don't love what I perceive as dirty dogs. I don't like it when they're not trained, right? They don't know their place, and apparently their owner doesn't know their place, right? So I like animals that have been trained and know where they need to position themselves in accordance with their owner. But I love dogs. My family has trained dogs. We've had so many dogs. We love watching dog shows. So it's not that I don't like dogs. I do, but I don't like dirty dogs, and I don't like misbehaving dogs. And so, but she knows the dog's name. Everyone that she knows interacts with the dog, and the dog itself is basically a welcome force with everyone that goes to that meeting on a regular basis. And I was wondering to myself, if I had kept going to that particular meeting rather than bucking, right? Because that's what it is. I bucked because I have a very high sense of, I won't say orderliness, but I have a very high sense of respecting the atmosphere of recovery. And so if I had continued to go to that meeting, I wonder if I would have adjusted, found a different way to cope with that particular animal in the meeting. I believe I would have. I think that most of the things that we are afraid of or run from have more to do with us not being okay with how we handle them, our coping skills. Like there's something deeply embedded in us that has become part of our DNA structure or our core value or our schemas, our way of thinking in such a way that when we interact with that thing, then we are then challenged. And because we don't want to address the challenge in a way where others can see it, maybe, or it might get away from us, right? We might lose our temper. It might rub us so much the wrong way that we avoid it completely. And I don't think that that's the way to live our lives. You know, in Narcotics Anonymous, we are told that we have an opportunity to be happy, joyous, and free. Those three things divided by commas, right? So I have every reason to believe, I have every reason to believe that happy, joyous are similar, but two different things. And free. Because a lot of people can act like they're happy, but not have a single ounce of joy. Right? I believe that joy is something that is more spiritual than being happy. I think being happy is a moment in time. Being happy is a presence. But being joyful is something so internal, nobody can take it from you. Even when you're going through a storm, you may not be happy, you may be sad, but on the inside, your spirit can be filled with joy. Mhm, mhm. You ever heard someone say that is a bittersweet situation? Imagine someone that you know living with cancer, stage 4, they're terminal, and you've watched them go through treatments, you watch them um, deal with that agony of chemotherapy, and now they've gotten to the point where they're not being given any hope. And so there's no more treatments. They may be using a breathing apparatus to help them breathe. They may be on some pain medication to make the pain of the disease within their body more tolerable. There's been meetings that have been had with hospice that have allowed the family to know what to expect. Um, and you endure watching your loved one go through this pain, giving your loved one the care that they need, cleaning their bodies, making sure their mouth stays moist. You go through this because you love them. And if you don't do it, who else is going to do it? They want to be at home when they pass. So what else, in granting their final wishes, who else is going to do this but you? A lot of people said, I cannot do that. Cannot change my mother's diapers or my dad's diapers. I can't do that. But I will submit to you that love will cause you to actually do more than you think that you can do. And do it with such grace. Love will cause you to do that. And that's my point, is there's a lot of things that we say we can't do, but because of love, we find ourselves doing them. And we find ourselves doing them very gracefully. Because we love, right? Whoever it is we're about to lose. But when they pass, and they have drawn their last breath, who of you that has gone through that circumstance can say that you were utterly filled with sadness, but there was a glimpse of joy, rejoicing in your spirit that they were no longer suffering? Am I making sense here? Am I making sense? Right? So you can lack happiness, but have a sense of joy about a situation. You can be sad on one hand and joyful on another in the spirit, right? You can have joy in your spirit because you know that pain has ended. And depending on your faith, your religion, you may equate their death with receiving, a glorified body or a heavenly presence. So then that is even more joyful than losing them in the physical. Okay, so there's components to that, layers to that. But I'm just talking about the top layer. I'm just talking about the top layer of being sad about something, but having joy at the same time. Right? So it's bittersweet. So when we tell people in recovery, you can be happy, joyous, and free. Can you imagine being happy, filled with a spirit of joy, and one of freedom? Free to be yourself, free to come and move and do, free to make choices instead of having institutions make choices for you because of your criminal behavior, right? There's a level of freedom that comes as a result of these spiritual principles as well, as a result of working this. One of the hardest things I have to do, I think sometimes, is watch people. I don't have no choice, right? Because I can't control another human being. But it's hard to watch people you love stay bitter about things that they have absolutely no control over the other person and their actions. They have control over how they respond. And they stay so bitter and resentful and angry that they refuse to forgive. But here again, being resentful is about expecting the other person to drink poison and die. But it's you that's dying. It's you that has drank this poison because you are rescinding or resent, right? Resentment. So you are rescinding something that has already been minted in time, right? It's been minted, it is stable. It is a stable situation. It can't move from where it was, which is generally speaking in the past. But you keep rescinding that situation to yourself over and over and over. So every time you rescind it, your body reacts, you react, your mouth reacts, your spirit reacts. Continue to send negative energy to your body over and over and over. They should have a lawsuit against you, right? And I'm thinking about the people in Flint drinking that water that was filled with lead over and over a period of time. It's like kryptonite, right? It's like kryptonite to Superman, because over a period of time, that resentment wears you down. It renders you totally ineffective. You can't do anything without talking about that situation. Anybody that stands in your presence can almost guarantee that they are going to have to hear that story one more time, because you are living it over and over and over and over. In the meantime, here it is 5 years later. 5 years later, and you still telling the same story. You still angry. You still resentful. And the rest of the world has moved on past COVID. But you are still 5 years back in a situation. And then every person, the other fellowship talks about it like a play script. Every person you encounter, you have a script for this screenwrite that you've written, right? This play that you've written. Every person you interact is supposed to be a certain character with a certain role to play, with a certain script, and you pass them out. In the spiritual sense, you pass them out to those people every time you interact with them. And every time they fail to read their lines, act the way that you need them to act, you become emotionally unstable to the point where you need a substance to handle that emotion. So today's reading is about changing the way that you respond to situations. But most of the time it comes with the successfulness of that comes, or the longevity of change behavior is a result of change thinking. And change thinking, a lot of times you have to practice it. What did that just for today said? It said that, let me jump back here. I'm getting past the time that I want to be for this. So let me say, it said, reread this. It says, we try what we have learned on an experimental basis. This is one of the places you actually can come to and practice these spiritual principles and practice them. And the training ground is within the meeting, within the fellowship, within our structure of the 12 steps and 12 traditions and 12 concepts of service. The training ground is with each other. Because now, if I look at my sister and I understand what she's going through, losing a loved one to cancer, I understand it because I've been through it. I understand it because I was the one turning my pops over left and right during his last 24 hours. I understand that. I understand watching them go. Okay, so now when I'm interacting with you, you're not just talking to anybody. You're talking to your fellow recovering addict that has had some similar experiences and managed to stay clean through them. So now I'm coming from a posture that you can use if you want to, but I would submit that your mother or your father or your husband, whoever you just lost, would prefer that you stay clean through this. And I'm quite sure some of their last words to you was, keep doing what you're doing. I'm so proud of you. Okay, so when I'm speaking like this, I'm speaking from my own experience. And now the statement within the basic text that the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. Now that is a direct quote. I'm not paraphrasing that. So now there's nothing that can run parallel side by side with you in this situation, but another recovering addict. And I can run it with you, right? Because I have passed through this and stayed clean. Not just one time, I have passed through several losses and managed to stay clean. Okay, so I believe in you. I believe that you can act as if until it becomes your reality. I believe that you can suit up to show up on a day-to-day basis. Every day is not going to be the best day. Every day, there's a specific day that bothers me every year. And it's April 18th and April 30th. These are 2 days that are, I would say, by far the hardest days for me to suit up and show up. But I have practiced suiting up and showing up for decades on those days. Not very many people know what those days represent. And I would say probably one of the two people that would give me a card, right? On those days, acknowledging my loss has passed away. And I don't even talk about it, tell you the truth, anymore, because I think that sometimes I have to keep it 100. I'm decades out from the incident. I cannot continue to live like it just happened yesterday. Right? So some of you know that I was with a drug dealer when I was 16. Some of you know this, but some of you don't. I was with a drug dealer at the age of 16. He was 37. I was pregnated twice. I had 2 forced abortions back to back. The first one, I signed the paperwork on the 18th of April and lost my baby to this abortion on the 30th of April. You see? So imagine I'm in my 50s, mid 50s now, 54. Imagine all these years from the age of 16 up until now, right? 40, so 38 years later, I am thinking quite often how my children and I would be today. I think quite often that they would be doctors by now. They would be married, and I would have grandchildren at this stage. These are things that I grieve regularly. I grieve. But it does not stop me from showing up in life. Right? We all have something that we are recovering from. And while I have other incidents that took place that were abusive before that, I would say by far the main reason I used every day from 16 on up until I got to this program at 23, I would say I got here at 25, right? So from 16 to 25, using every day to cope with those losses. And then when I found out that I could not only be happy, I could be joyous and free, I had to act as if until I could get myself there. And a lot of times it was just showing up at meetings, even when I didn't want to be at a meeting. It was calling my sponsor, even when I didn't want to hear nothing she had to say, because this was going to just be one of them days that I was going to have to listen to her run her mouth about what I needed to be doing, and she wasn't doing it herself, right? So, but I didn't ask her to let me sponsor her. I asked her to sponsor me. So I had to endure those interactions. Right? So I just want to encourage you today and remind you that practice makes perfect. And I believe in you. I want you to get up and take this day. Take this day. Do something that you've told yourself you could not do. Start reintroducing those things that disabled you back into your life. Start warming your spirit up to those situations and seeing the part that you played in them, and let go of the resentment. I told a friend of mine the other day, I said, I don't know what to do. Oh, I don't know what you need to do, but this is what I think. Girl, I will go buy me a helium balloon for each of those situations and each of those people. Get you a car full of helium balloons with ribbons on them, white ribbon. And I will go to the park that has the biggest clearance, because the last thing you want is for a tree to catch your white balloon. I would take a black marker and I would write all over that marker all of the situations that you need to let go of. And I would pray over each one, bless each one, and let it go and be done. Then I would just journal about that experience, and I would not revisit that, because it's disabled you too much. You can barely walk. You got arthritis, full of resentment and anger. And I believe that once you start living the spiritual principles, you will be free. And I believe that for you today. I want you to take this day by storm. My name is Mighty Stream, and you can reach me at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a beautiful weekend.